And from the Compassion ACC, and I'm hoping to have 5 minutes of your time. Do need to let you know that this conversation will be recorded. It may be used for the edification of your colleagues and maybe even for the glory of God. Am I speaking with Melina?
You sure are.
Okay. Do we like Melina or Mel? What's your preference?
I actually don't mind. I'm happy with either.
We just differentiate you from Mel Barker by calling you Melina, but...
Perfect.
Yeah,
done.
Very good. Alrighty, so it's been a bit of a wet weekend. We were just discussing beforehand. What's your favourite season?
So a little bit controversial, but I do really like winter. I know it's not a popular choice, but I don't know. I like the cozy. I like the inside. I like it when it's not too hot. So that's probably my preferred season, actually.
Have you got some skiing skills in your background?
Look, I've done it. I wouldn't say I have a skill set. But I've definitely attempted it a couple of times, so won't be going pro, let's put it that way.
Oh, well, okay.
Disappointing.
So, yes, it's been interesting working from home in winter. I don't know about your house, but mine's pretty cold. The option of going back to the office in winter was quite attractive, actually, but yes. So when you're not doing winter snow sports, much else in the way of sports or hobbies? What fills your time outside of it?
What's very funny is the term sport, Simeon. That's not necessarily my line of recreational use of time. But in terms of hobbies, I'm a big reader, so I, will be, reading all sorts of interesting, exciting things from folks. I like to cook as well, so that's a nice thing to be able to do indoors too, or hanging out with my pooches as well. That's probably my other closest thing to a hobby, which can sort of be a sport maybe, but that might be the closest we get.
If they start chasing something and you've got to run along to keep up with them, I guess that becomes...
or each other and try and get out of the way, it's kind of...
fair enough. Hey, Mel, what led you to Compassion as a workplace in the first instance?
It's a great question, actually, and I've been thinking about it a little bit. I think one of the things that has been on my mind as I've kind of, continued to grow and journey over the years is just wanting to take every opportunity for every aspect of your life to be something that contributes to caring for and serving others in some way. And so the opportunity to be able to come and to work here, I'm not here full time, I'm here 3 days, but the chance to be able to do that and to participate in a space where we get to love and care and serve little ones and supporters who have responded to that as well is something that I just really value, and it's a great team as well, so that's been a real blessing too. But that's kind of how I ended up here and how I even ended up looking at the role and opportunities here in the first place.
And in your time in Compassion, have you been on any field trips?
I haven't yet had the joy. So I was, beginning of the year, pre-COVID, was expecting to go to Indonesia in October, but needless to say, like so many other of us, that didn't go ahead. But looking forward to, but looking forward to that opportunity as well.
Yeah, cool. So do you have sponsored children?
I do, yes.
Whereabouts are they?
I sponsor a little girl, she's 5 in Ghana, and I sponsor a young man, he's 19 and in the Philippines. So sort of both ends of the age spectrum. But
yeah, absolutely. And do you have an affinity or a particular interest in the country that Compassion works in?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think overall, I don't know that I necessarily have a particularly strong affinity with one country. I mean, I think certainly the opportunity to be able to connect in with countries that are our immediate neighbours, so specifically places like Indonesia and the Philippines, is something that's I'm mindful of. But I, don't necessarily have a strong affinity. I think any opportunity to partner and to serve in any of the places we work is a really awesome thing. So
fantastic. And in terms of your Christian journey, obviously there are people who share the gospel with us and who encourage us in our walk. Is there any Is there a particular person who made a difference for you in terms of you understanding the good news, making a decision to follow Jesus?
Yeah, I think for me, my journey looks a little bit different to some in that I grew up in a Christian household. And certainly along the way, that journey can be an interesting one, because I think particularly as a young person and an adult, it's really important to come to terms with that yourself, and certainly to benefit from all that you've received in that, but also to take that time to wrestle with that and go, well, what does this actually mean for me as a young person as well? And one of the people I would say who has continued to be really instrumental in modelling that and in continuing to point me to the width and the breadth and the depth of God's love, but also, just what it means to walk the journey, would actually be my mum.
Okay.
As someone who's just, gone through all sorts of, ups and downs and things along the way, but just continued to hold to Christ, and to what that might then mean for the way that we live our everyday lives. That's just something that I've watched, and it's been a real privilege, and it's shaped the way that I've thought about things, maybe encountered challenges, good stuff, all of it along the way too. So I'm pretty lucky in that regard.
Fantastic. Yeah, excellent. And you said earlier that you love reading.
Do.
Have you come across any books, other than obviously the Bible, that you found particularly helpful in terms of your understanding of God's love, or in helping you in particular times in your life, or, what's your reading recommendation?
What's my reading recommendation? Well, I won't put everybody to sleep with a short list of however many. I think when thinking about this question, there's a book that I read just before kind of pandemic kind of kicked in around March. It's a bit of a mouthful. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, by John Mark Comer. And it's a really, it's quite accessible, but then quite deceptive, because whilst it's, straightforward to read, there's some pretty hardcore provocations in that around what does it mean to actually be still and to live a life that includes rhythms where we're able to stop and we're actually able to hear God and hear each other and actually, value, the stuff that really does matter, particularly in a culture that values stuff on the basis of busyness and hurry. And I'm not, sitting still is not necessarily my strong point. So there's lots of learning to do in this space. And then I think particularly coming into the chaos of COVID, I sort of revisited it 6 months later and went, oh yeah, I probably need to because I just saw all of that blur. But yeah, I really appreciate folks who, have written work that just reminds us of, keeping that main thing the main thing, and what's actually, important, and what actually can help us to do the very best work that we can. And sometimes it's not doing all the things all the time, which is it's a hard balance, but I'd recommend it. It was a good read. Excellent.
Add it to the list. So I'm going to wrap up shortly, but you live in beautiful downtown Thornton, am I right?
Downtown, yes. I don't know where the uptown is, but I'm definitely in the downtown.
If there was anywhere else in the world that you'd rather live than beautiful Thornton, where would it be?
Look, it's really hard because there's just so many nice places you could live. To narrow it down to one. I do. I've done, sort of bits of travel in my time, and I do very much feel like, Australia and even sort of around here is kind of home. I do have that sense, but I think if I could live anywhere, I'd really like to spend a little bit of time in even somewhere like Tassie, so really far down south if I could. I reckon that'd be really special. So shout out to you, Bree.
Blast of winter.
Yeah, exactly. It all fits the brief. But yeah, otherwise, downtown Thornton it is.
Fair enough. And last question, how's your Christmas shopping going?
Terribly. I haven't started. Oh my gosh.
Well, then it's not going terribly. It just hasn't started. It's not like you've
Yeah, my rule of thumb is once the pumpkins leave the shop, then maybe, it's an appropriate time, which means now. But, anyway, that's
very good.
Tomorrow's problem.
Well, it's been wonderful to catch up with you. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your life and insight, and really appreciate that. Thanks, Melina.
Thanks for that, Simeon. Nice to chat. Catch you around.
Bye.